Well done, Arsenal. Where do we start? A remontada resistance. A comeback that Real Madrid promised never materialised. Is it not fair to say that you've kind of flip-flopped on Mikel Arteta?
You still got to win something. I think he lost his way for a period of time where he wasn't, to my mind, making a lot of sense. He slayed that particular dragon, but he still hasn't won anything.
Did you live at the point that you thought they were bottlers a couple of seasons ago?
Yeah, I do. Because I don't look at the opposition that they lost games to as needing their best team out there. When you drew both of those games back-to-back in April of that season where you bottled it. It's nonsense, they're all cobblers. It's just a silly narrative.
Do you always like having the last word?
No, I like to clarify the thinking rather than allowing someone to run away with a narrative.
Well done, Arsenal. Where do we start? A remontada resistance. A comeback that Real Madrid promised never materialised. And Arsenal power past Real Madrid into the Champions League semi-finals. Now, in the little office beside this small studio in which we're operating at the moment, you were telling me wonderful things about Saka and where you think Bukayo Saka has got himself to.
Well, I think he's the best winger in the world. I think he's better than Vinicius Jr. I think he's more effective, and I think him coming back into the side has given a shot in the Arsenal arm that's obviously created outcomes in this particular game. Declan Rice, both performances in the first leg at the Emirates and the second leg for a different reason, in a different way, in the Bernabeu, was a compelling force. But I think Saka, despite the fact he takes a Panenka and misses it, he goes and rectifies that by scoring a goal. I think he's a wonderful player, and I think he was a massive, massive miss for Arsenal in that period of time.
Yeah, and before we hear from Arteta, who said it was the proudest moment probably in his Arsenal career as a head coach, of course, bottlers, regression, will there need to be a monumental apology or two dished out to Arteta if he guides them to this incredible trophy lift?
Well, it depends who was calling them bottlers in the present. If you're calling them bottlers at the time that they took an opportunity and threw it away 2 seasons ago, that was relevant then. Regression as far as the opportunity to win the Premier League. I know I said the other day that I think winning the Premier League is more compelling than the Champions League, but if the Champions League is the thing that you can win, and it's the ball that people always want to win. They want to win the Premier League and then they want to go on and win the Champions League.
Would this not be more emphatic if Arsenal win the Champions League when no one really gave them much of a chance of doing it?
Well, I don't think it's more emphatic. I think it's a significant achievement. I think winning the league is the most significant achievement. But I also think that winning the Champions League, if you're going to have something that's a close second or can be in lots of people's minds considered an equal, then winning the Champions League is considered to be the ultimate in club football, normally as a follow-up to winning a league. But in this instance, Chelsea took lots of glory when Thomas Tuchel won the Champions League. If Arsenal are able to win the Champions League, and they're going to have to do it the hardest of ways. Not many teams are going to get... I mean, I think that this Madrid side isn't the Madrid side of old. I'm pretty pleased to see Mbappe be the Boc on teams because he couldn't do it at PSG. Now he's gone to Real Madrid, and Real Madrid have loosened their grip on this apparently ever-present trophy that they have in their cabinet room. I think there's a lot to go for Arsenal, but I think what they've done is brilliant. I think it's brilliant for the team. I think it's brilliant for the club, and it's brilliant for Arteta.
I'm looking at the messages coming in, mostly from Liverpool fans at this stage. There's Tony. Yeah, Arsenal have won nothing yet. Bear that in mind. Tony, we know that. But they're certainly looking very good. They're still in the Champions League, Tony, and your lot are out. Mikel Arteta, post-match, not surprisingly, had a very warm grin on his face, and he was asked if he'd ever been more proud of his players.
Probably not, and not only because we're in the semi-final for the third time in our history, but as well for the manner and the way we did it, not only by the way we played, but as well with the circumstances and the amount of injuries that we have. So I think overall, it shows the character of this team, of this club, and is a night to be very proud of. What the players were transmitting and how prepared I could feel the team that we are ready. We are ready to compete against anybody, and now we have to continue to do that because I think we have some momentum now.
They sure do. Simon, is it not fair to say that you've kind of flip-flopped on Mikel Arteta? You rated him, then you called him all theory.
Yeah, but 2 years ago.
He's all theory.
Yeah, but that was 3 years ago, wasn't it?
He's the real thing now.
Well, you still got to win something. So I absolutely agree with the fact that you've got to take the opportunities when they're there, and if people deserve plaudits, they should be given them in the real time, because they would be damn sure given criticisms in real time as well. I have not flip-flopped in recent times. I liked Arteta when he came in the door, and then I think he lost his way for a period of time when he wasn't, to my mind, making a lot of sense when you talking about having two goalkeepers and rotating them and things of that nature. I thought that he was beginning to become a lot more theory than practice. Well, he's slayed that particular dragon, but he still hasn't won anything. He's won the badge of constant progression for Arsenal in the last 2 seasons. They've chased Man City down and got closer each season. This season in the Premier League, they're not going to chase Liverpool down. They're going to lose the Premier League by quite some way. Yeah. But what they've done is something they haven't done previously, which is, or for some time, gone deep in a Champions League. Well, now we know that this Champions League format has thrown out lots of better outcomes in terms of teams looking better because of this new format. I'm not suggesting Arsenal have been that way, and I also think Arsenal have been slightly unfairly treated about the seeding mechanism. When you finish higher up in the group and all of a sudden you find yourself at a certain stage in the tournament being drawn away.
I'm glad you've said that.
Or drawn at home first, sorry.
The Arsenal, in the process of doing what they did last night in the Bernabeu, have reached the last 4 of the competition since 2009. I'll get back to Arteta in a second, but I'm glad you've raised that, Simon. For those who don't know, UEFA will consider changing the seeding rules for next season's Champions League after criticism that Arsenal play the second leg of the quarterfinal in Madrid. Now, it is looked upon as, well, hang on a second. This was Arsenal who finished high in the new look league situation. Tomorrow's Champions League, when you look at it, going forward, Arsenal have got, the fact of the matter is they're going to be away from home next in the second leg. Now, so what? Does it really matter if there's an advantage taken here that you get the home leg second? Does it really matter? But on Arsenal, it does seem fairly harsh that having played so well in the new look format, they still had to go to Madrid and play the second leg in Madrid.
It matters to those that want to look at things through a critical prism. If you get into the first 8, you go through to the immediate qualification of the next round. The other teams have got to play in playoffs. So they're already disadvantaged by playing one more game. So the disadvantage is already kicked in. Whatever. I mean,
is that reward enough?
Well, and of course in the round of 16, you are seeded in a certain way that enables you to have the away leg first. Yeah. So from that point of view, is that carried on in perpetuity? So you now get into the quarters and you've got to have the same seeding regime, and you get into the semis, you've got the same seeding regime. I'm not as offended by it, and Arsenal probably won't be now, because they smashed Madrid in the first leg and made it all about Madrid having to do something in the second.
And so they won home and away, so the argument doesn't really exist,
but there always seems to be an element of people that want to constantly criticise something.
Yeah, my God, I'm looking at the messages coming in, Simon. I mean, but no one is having Arsenal this morning. There's another one. Getting fed up of all this Arsenal bias. 1-0 for 5 years, still 1-0 this season, yet the media, you lot, are acting as if they're world champions already. By no means are we doing that.
They've just smashed Madrid 5-1 over 2 legs. Yeah. Most people would look at Real Madrid in a certain way. I think Arsenal need to be given the plaudits for it. Yeah. But I'm the first person to say they've got to win something. This will mean nothing. If Arsenal get knocked out in the semi-final to PSG, his proudest moment will very quickly recede into the distance.
Yeah. Could you still argue progress, though, if they still fall short?
Of what? But you haven't won anything.
You got to win something. Does this get back to Gareth and England?
But it must do.
Yeah, progress. But you haven't won anything.
Sport in its finest form is about winners and losers, and they're defined by those that win and those that lose. I agree,
but have they moved the needle at all?
Not in the league, they haven't. No. In the Champions League, in a cup competition that we know the format's been set up differently. In a cup competition, they've moved the needle in the Champions League for Arsenal, because Arsenal were considered to be a last 16 at very best quarterfinal side. Yeah. And have proven that to be the case for the last 20 years when they've participated in the Champions League. They've now moved the needle to a semi-final stage. But with the greatest respect in the world, who was the semi-finalists in the Champions League in 2017?
No, I agree. I know where you're going with it.
Most people don't know.
We don't remember. Jim White, you're saying there that Arsenal haven't won anything yet. They're in the semi-finals and that's all. No, let's not confuse the issue here. What I'm saying is it's a fantastic achievement by Arsenal. And I want you to win the damn thing. Of course I do. Why do I want any other club other than the English club Arsenal, who are still in the competition? And I seriously rate what Arsenal have done. So you're confusing what I think with what some of the people who are texting in think, such as Tony, the Liverpool fans. One of many Liverpool fans is another Liverpool fan, Jamie, who's got a picture of an open-top bus with Arsenal. We won a quarter-final. Well, honestly, we're not making out that you've achieved anything yet, Arsenal. You haven't. You've got into the semi-final of the Champions League. That in itself, yes, sure, commendable. But as Simon rightly says, you haven't won anything yet. But we're with you all the way in your journey, in your attempt to try and win it in Munich, where it's curiously going to be played. I mean, Simon, I think we are. Yes, of course, we're sound of mind in that. Until Arteta and Arsenal lift the thing above their heads, there's a whole bunch of work to be done.
Yeah, I mean, football criticises in real time. If you have a bad performance, you're judged by it. If you have a good performance, you're judged by it. So I don't think there's anything wrong. I don't think Arsenal are making a fight play out of it. The media, we in the media will make a fight play out on their behalf. If you look at this achievement over Madrid, no one would have picked Arsenal to beat Madrid 5-1 over 2 legs. But this is not a vintage Madrid side. I'm not going to try and diminish Arsenal's achievement because it's still commendable.
Yeah.
But this is a Madrid side that lost to Lille, that got beat 3-1 at home by AC Milan, that got beat by Liverpool during the qualifying stages of this tournament, that aren't going to win anything in their own league, are going to struggle to win the Copa del Rey, are probably going to come out of the season with absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
And so with all that in mind, put aside the on-paper stuff of whose names are on the team sheet. They're not a cohesive team, Madrid. Arsenal were a cohesive team last night. There was more of a team efficacy about Arsenal with individuals, bits of brilliance from Saka, whereas what you've got with Madrid is a group of individuals.
Right. And Arsenal didn't shade it. 5-1 in aggregate.
No, they didn't shade it.
Do me a favour.
They thoroughly deserved it. But again, it has to be compared with the reality. The reasons why I was so confident and Danny Murphy was so confident yesterday is not just because they're 3-0 up. It's because if you can move beyond the reputation and the atmosphere and play against a team, then Madrid are not a great side. So they overcame the perceptions of this reputation that's gone before them, and a well-deserved reputation.
Yeah.
And also the hostile atmosphere. I understand that Arteta made an observation that if he didn't know what it was like playing in a Bernabeu, he did after the first 3 minutes of the noise that was there. But noise doesn't win you football matches. Players and their response to it do.
Sure thing. And Declan Rice was nothing short of magnificent. Shane's a big Arsenal fan, one of many who are calling 03717 223344. Shane, good morning. What have you done now?
Yeah, hi Simon, hi Jim, hope you're well. I'm obviously really happy about last night's result. I called up about 2 weeks ago, spoke to Gabby and Jeff, predicted we'd win the first game 2-0 and we'd get something in the Bernabeu, and I was right. Just happy with Arteta. Don't think he gets the kind of respect that he should be getting. Everyone, all these other fans are going on that we haven't won anything. No Arsenal fans are saying that we've won something. We're just happy to be there. Obviously, with all the injuries that we've had and stuff, obviously we're going to finish second. Not great, but we're in the semi-final of the Champions League. Everyone said we were going to lose this, and we come out and showed everyone how good.
Yeah.
But as usual, everyone's always got something to say.
Shane, can I jump in there? When you say Arteta doesn't get the respect he deserves, what do you mean?
So I'll give you a perfect example. So since Aston Villa have been in the Champions League, everyone's going, Emery's done a really good job doing well in the league and the Champions League, but everyone forgets that after weren't in the Champions League for ages, and then in the last 3 seasons, we've done well in the Champions League and come second. But no one seems to give that to Arteta. Everyone says he hasn't won a trophy. Remember, we were against the best team ever, supposedly, in Man City for the last few years. We're just happy to be in the semi-finals and keep on going.
But before you leave us, Shane, I'll put this to you. If you fall short against PSG, can you argue progress once more this season?
I wouldn't say necessarily. It's progress because we got to the semi-final of the Champions League, and last season it was quarter-final, so it's progress. Obviously, we want to win the trophies, and that's going to come very, very soon. But I just think Arteta deserves the credit that he needs.
No, good points. Shane, thanks for the call. Here's Chuck, another Arsenal fan. Chuck, good morning. What do you see in all of this, mate?
Hi, Jim. How are you doing?
Good, thank you. Good to hear from you.
Before I actually start on, I just wanted to say thank you actually to Simon Jordan. So what happened is that I was studying. So because of all the knowledge that he has in finance, what I've actually done is go back to school. So I'm actually doing a program, a business finance program at the moment. So thanks a lot to Simon.
Good luck, mate. Good luck.
Thank you very much. Right, yeah, regarding Arteta, I think he's done a good job. We need to actually remember that when he started, he had no experience as a manager, okay? And for him to actually win the FA Cup in his first season, right, there was a bit of some luck, but still he did win something. Now, compared to other experienced managers that have actually come in, we had Emery. And unfortunately, when we actually played Chelsea in that Europa, we were nowhere near his best.
No, right? Yeah, I remember. Yeah,
exactly. But now, when we look at Emery, he's won, the Europa, league quite a few times with Seville and Villarreal.
Yeah.
Okay. Now with Arteta, he was inexperienced, and he's actually gaining experience on the job as he goes. And to actually build a team from scratch after everybody criticized him, and the good thing is that the board actually gave him the time.
Yes.
So
yeah,
if it took Klopp, an experienced manager, to win his first trophy after 4 years, and Arteta is actually his fifth year, and he actually won his first trophy in the first year.
Yeah.
Surely we should actually give credit to that, and he's actually building. And like the last caller said, we have to look at the team that we're playing against. That's Real Madrid.
Yes.
We also have to look in the Premier League, the team that was dominating, which was Man City.
Yeah.
Right. Which Liverpool struggled, and this is why also maybe took a toll on Klopp as well.
Got many good points in there, actually, Chuck. Echoed by Christian, who's an Arsenal fan. You got to remember, we played the best team in Europe, reportedly the best team in Europe, Real Madrid, and it was a manner in which Arsenal won it.
But they're not
over the two legs.
But they're not the best team in Europe. They're not the best team in their own league. So they were the best team. They've got the best record in Europe over previous seasons.
Well, La Liga champions.
But they're not now. We can't judge people by what they've done. We can only judge people by what they're doing.
No, but they're Champions League defending champions as well.
Sure,
Simon.
but that was then.
Yeah,
they're not the best. Ultimately, they're not the best team in their own league. They're not winning the Spanish league. They're not going to win the Spanish league. They've been smashed. They've been smashed at home by Barcelona 4-0 during the course of this season.
Yeah.
They've been beaten by a variety of sides leading up into this game.
Yeah.
I don't want to diminish Arsenal's performances, because I don't think it's worthy of diminishing them. But we've also got to give context to the fact that, and by the way, when we're talking about inexperienced managers, Arteta won a cup final where Frank Lampard was in the other dugout, who was also an inexperienced manager.
Yeah. We very much are talking about Arsenal. We very much are talking too about one player in particular, not Saka on this occasion, who Simon says best winger in the world right now. I don't think you're wrong on that, Simon. But following his domineering performances, Declan Rice, is he now the man that Tuchel and England need, Simon, to build around going forward, as opposed to Jude Bellingham?
As well as Jude Bellingham. Because a team, very rarely, there's a few exceptional situations where you've seen teams like Lionel Messi's Argentina and Diego Maradona's Argentina be carried across the line specifically because of the exploits of one man. Most of the time it's because the team is very good. Like the Spanish team had a few stars in it, but they also had a group of players that performed as a unit. Declan Rice's performances for England in the 2022 World Cup, which is where any criticism that I might have had of Declan Rice emanated from, was a player that went sideways and back.
Yeah.
And that was because I think possibly he was asked to do so. Now, this version of Declan Rice that's played 2 games of football that have really caught the headlines in people's minds, for what might be casual Arsenal observers.
Consistently good.
Yeah, he's been consistently good, but he's really got a different level of acknowledgement over the last 2 games because of 2 wonder goals in the first leg, and because of a very solid performance, doing a very difficult job, making it look easy at the time in the second leg.
Yeah.
Now, does that mean that the criticism, or should I say the observations that people like Graham Souness made, and I made to a lesser degree at the time, were not founded in the facts of the time?
To a lesser degree, there's Kevin, who's a West Ham fan. You're not going to like this. How about Mr. Noel Jordan admitting that he was wrong about Declan Rice, and Declan Rice is a top drawer footballer. He can read the game, he can tackle, intercept, break forward with pace, shoot and score.
Yeah.
What more does he have to do, Mr. Know-it-all Jordan?
And he can recognise going from a slightly smaller club at West Ham to a bigger club and a meaningful club at Arsenal. Yeah, I can see those traits.
Kevin.
There's no point answering a question that is seated in a narrative that I didn't advance. I didn't say he wasn't a top player. I did say that I don't think any footballer's worth 100 million quid, including Declan Rice. And I did say in the World Cup of 2022 that all he did was go sideways and backwards. And if those observations were wrong, then what's his face can point them out. But the fact of the matter is, my know-it-all perspective in this instance didn't say he wasn't a top player. Yeah. What I said was what I've seen from him on England duty. I don't get what all the fuss is about.
I don't get some of the fuss either. There's Ian, death taxes and Simon playing down Arsenal is what I expected this morning. I don't think you are. I think you're putting it into perspective in a fairly pragmatic way.
They've won a quarter-final of a Champions League against a team that reputationally is bigger than its current deeds. And I think they should be commended for it. I think Arsenal are a big, big football club. And the reasons why Emery at Aston Villa, to go to a previous caller's observations, is judged differently is because Aston Villa have been relegated during this period of time since they last won the Champions or the European Cup at the time. They've been an also-run football club, whereas Arsenal have been one of the mainstays of the Premier League era. And the argument could be over the last 10 or 15 years that they've massively underachieved. Now, they're reasserting themselves in their rightful position at the top of the Premier League. They've always been in and around it. They've had turnovers of 400 or 500 million quid, whereas Aston Villa have been in the Championship. So people are going to make more noise about the current trajectory of travel for Villa.
Sure.
Now, if Villa go into the Champions League and have 7 or 8 seasons of being in the Champions League and at the top of the table and still haven't won anything, or 4 or 5 seasons, people are going to have the same judgment of Emery at Villa as they're having at Arteta at Arsenal by not winning things.
Before we go to Dan and to Keith, the Arsenal fans, do you think they overcome PSG?
I think you wouldn't put anything past this Arsenal side. They will have slayed a dragon in many people's minds, in their own minds. You know, people build up confidences and sometimes false confidences and fake it till they make it. Well, they've made it now by beating Real Madrid. PSG provide a different challenge. They've already beaten them in the group stages.
Yeah.
So they've got that in their mindset.
Yeah.
But this, in and of itself, is a big game. I think PSG are a different challenge.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't put it past Arsenal to win the Champions League. And despite the best endeavours of those who can't see past their own tribalistic nonsense, I think that it would be wonderful for Arsenal to win the Champions League.
Was that directed specifically at Kevin, the West Ham fan?
Silly, isn't it? But people that get entrenched in a position and then reflect what people say and don't reflect it accurately.
Dan, good morning to you, big Arsenal fan. When it comes to Arteta, Dan, winning the Champions League before the Premier League, would it be the most emphatic response to Arteta's critics? Is Dan with us? Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Dan. You with us?
Yeah, I am. How are you guys?
Yeah, fine, thank you, mate. I just threw one out to you there. Say you win the Champions League before you win the Premier League. Would that be an emphatic response from Arteta to any of his critics?
Well, I think the answer to the critics is what is the platform that he's actually building for the club. I think it runs a bit deeper than that, to be fair.
Yeah.
You know, yes, we've been stagnant for the last couple of seasons, finishing second behind now Liverpool and City before. But if other clubs look at what we're doing now with, you know, signing a new sporting director, there's so much noise around players coming to the club, and it's not really the fans need to be satisfied as well, but it's the players themselves. There's a belief in the players.
Yes.
Players are wanting to stay. It's all the new contracts. So from an Arsenal fan, you know, I wouldn't be ecstatic, content at the minute, but it's the progress I see and it's the way Arteta actually wears the jersey.
Yeah. I like that, Dan. You're content, but you're not ecstatic.
Yeah, it's the way Arteta wears the jersey. He's Arsenal through and through. And for me, you know, you look at all these negative comments about Arsenal at the minute, we're winning nothing. However, you know, we as a country need to get behind the only English Premier League team in the Champions League, you know. And I think as a country we can be negative about judging teams, etc., but we all need to pull behind them.
Fair enough. Good points from you, Dan. Thank you for that. Keith, good morning.
A bit idealistic, isn't it?
Keith, well, somewhat, but well, having said that,
it's not the country's job to get behind a team that you don't support. It's not the country's job. You support your own team, your own domestic tribal allegiances, which
you get behind them if they get to the final.
I'll be pleased for them, but I'm not an Arsenal fan.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to join an open top bus that you'll be on put in front of the queue to be a part of. But I will appreciate it and give them their due reflection of praise.
Yeah. I've got you on that. Keith's a big Arsenal fan. Keith, good morning.
Good morning, guys.
Yeah.
Good morning. Listen, I'm not going to get overexcited. Fantastic win. I wouldn't have expected it from the beginning, But at the same time, you think about what we've done it without. We've got no striker. Haven't done probably for the last 2 years. Our best defender is out, Gabriel. He has been the best defender, bar none, this season, and he's out. And I would say this: we have a relatively weak squad, and we've just destroyed Real Madrid. So this is progress. But the one thing I would say with regards to that weak squad, and I've got to pick up Simon on this. I normally agree with him on many, many things. 2 years ago, we did not bottle the league. We did not have the squad depth. Saliba was out at a crucial part of the season, and when you're arguably your best defender, best player is out at a crucial time, it makes a difference when you haven't got the squad depth. That wasn't a bottle job. That was a lack of depth. We still don't have the depth. If we get recruitment correct in the summer with a decent striker and 1 or 2 additions, I'm telling you, we can be one of the best in Europe, bar none. It's progress.
Wow. Good call. I like that, Keith. Did you labour the point that you thought they were bottlers a couple of seasons ago?
Yeah, I do, because I don't look at the opposition that they lost games to as needing their best team out there. I understand that ultimately if you're losing players that are key components of your side, it disadvantages you, but you need squads to win leagues. You also need to be able to overcome lesser opposition. And when they lost some of the games or drew some of the games that compounded their issue of losing their way, they were against lesser opposition, not just the big six sides.
So you still maintain they bottled it 2 years ago?
Yeah, I think it's a fair argument.
Keith, he's not having it.
No, it's nonsense. It's nonsense. We had a very weak squad. No one at the start of that season, actually, funnily enough, I did say we'd challenge. Didn't think we'd win it, but nobody gave us a chance to challenge for the league 2 seasons ago. We did it. We pushed City to the end, but the truth is our squad has not been big enough. It wasn't big enough. We had our best defender, bar none, at that time, William Saliba, out for the last part of the season. And if you are looking to win the league on if you like, a threadbare squad, then I'm afraid to say to bottle it is a bit of an overstatement. We didn't bottle it. We need to recruit. And if we recruit effectively this summer, particularly with a striker and some other reinforcements, we are going to be one of the elite sides in Europe. And I don't say that I don't speak as a Tottenham fan mindset.
I get where you're coming from, Keith, and I think you get your feet firmly on the ground. One final question from me to you, Keith. Are you going to win the Champions League?
I never like to predict we're going to win it. If we win it, I'll be delighted. I'd never like to say we're going to win it. They'll give it a good go, and that's all we can ask for.
Brilliant, Keith. I appreciate your time and your call. Thank you so much. Arsenal ploughing forward in the Champions League. Next up, it's PSG. It's Jim White and it's Simon Jordan. We're live in talkSPORT. What do you want to say? I was about to give the big one about Selco there. It
must have been very important to have Saliba available against a struggling West Ham side and about to be relegated Southampton side when you drew both of those games back to back in April of that season where you bottled it. That must have been so important to have those players available to you.
But they missed him at the Etihad against City.
They may well have done, but the other games, the games where they got beat by Man City, were compounded by drawing with West Ham and drawing with Southampton. Yeah. Two sides that were neither rivaling Arsenal, had the squads to compete with Arsenal, or had pulling up any trees in their respective leagues. So that's why I make not the 4-1 defeat with Man City, the games against the Arsenals and the Southamptons of the world. They were the games where Arsenal threw away their opportunity.
They didn't bottle it last night, did they?
No, they did not.
No, they did not.
No, they did not.
And do you always like having the last word?
No, I like to clarify the thinking rather than allowing someone to run away with a narrative.
We broke it first that Virgil van Dijk, as expected, of course, but has signed a new deal with Liverpool and extends his time with the football club. He'll be a Liverpool player until 2027. We hear that he put pen to paper on the deal to ensure that his association with Liverpool will continue in the forthcoming campaigns, almost 7.5 years after he initially arrived at Anfield. And we know there was a bit of controversy around his arrival because Southampton, none too happy with the way in which he left, but nonetheless he left and he headed to Liverpool, and I think the fee around that time was about 75 million quid, so Southampton did more than all right about it. It's a proud feeling, says Virgil. It's a feeling of joy. It's just incredible. The journey I've had so far in my career, to be able to extend it with another 2 years at this club is amazing. I am so happy. So the one-time Celtic defender, the one-time Southampton defender, and now a Liverpool defender who may well go down as a Liverpool legend, is staying with the football club until 2027. 27. We're going to take calls on this. Liverpool fans queuing up, Simon, to speak to us. 03717 223344. It is what we expected, Simon. Nonetheless, it's great news for Liverpool, isn't it? It's significant.
Well, he's a good player. He's a very good player. I mean, they might watch him get old at Liverpool, and that might come with a consequence. But he looks after himself. He's fit. He's a leader. You know, whatever he may lack or lose in terms of physicality or pace during the course of the next 2 years, he'll make up for being able to read the game. Liverpool are lucky to some extent that there wasn't a bigger, better club that wanted him. Otherwise, he might have done to Liverpool what he did to Southampton.
You were none too happy with the way he treated Southampton.
I think there's a way to behave, and I think he should have been consequence far more significant, and so should Liverpool. I think that the way that Liverpool and the player colluded to create an outcome, I think Liverpool should have been made to pay for him at the time, and then he should have been banned for 6 months on Liverpool's payroll.
Right.
That will stop people from behaving that way.
All right, we'll get to that. We'll get to the fans as well. Chris is a Liverpool fan who's waiting patiently. Chris, bear with me. Wait a minute longer or so, because you're going to hear from Virgil van Dijk first on this show at the news that he stays a Liverpool player until 2027. Here's Virgil.
Very happy, very proud. There's so many emotions, obviously, that goes through my head right now speaking about it. It's a proud feeling. It's a feeling of joy. Yeah, it's just incredible. You know, the journey I've had so far in my career, to be able to extend it with another 2 years at this club is amazing. And yeah, I'm so happy.
It was always Liverpool, wasn't it?
It was always Liverpool. Yeah. It was always, that was the case. It was always in my head. It was always the plan, and it was always Liverpool. So it wasn't any doubt in my head that this is the place to be for me, for my family. I'm one of Liverpool. Someone called me the other day, adopted Scouser. So really proud to hear these things, and gives me a great feeling.
So Van Dijk signs a new deal at Liverpool, and he stays at the football club until 2027. And of course, already he's done not badly, has he? His trophy haul thus far consists of the Premier League, the Champions League, the FIFA Club World Cup, UEFA Super Cup, FA Cup, and 2 League Cups. Simon alongside me, Liverpool fans phoning in numbers. We knew you would. Chris, good morning. What's your reaction to this?
Good morning, Jim.
Morning, Chris. How do you feel Virgil stays with you till 2027?
Good morning, Simon, as well, mate. Sorry for leaving. Yeah, I am personally, I'm buzzing. I mean, to be fair, I think we all probably knew deep down that he was going to stay. And I just think, obviously, when Salah come out, I did think he's probably going to be left for a week or so before the news of him signing the contract. But I just think, I think it's great news. I think it's great news for the club. And to be fair, I think he's earned it. I mean, this season, I think he's been really, really good. There's been a couple of moments, but where he's goal away. But I think overall, a couple of points just on what Simon said. I think he's spot on in respect to as you're getting older like that. I mean, his knowledge of the game, his reading of the game. He barks at other players. I think he's a proper captain. I always like captains probably at centre half because they've got everything in front of them, apart from the goalkeeper, really. So I think he can read the game pretty good. But yeah, I think overall I'm delighted.
Before you go, Chris, let me put this to you. We know it's been all about a trio of Liverpool players, of Salah, Virgil and Trent. Have you secured the 2 most important component parts now in Salah and Virgil?
100%, and I'll tell you why. At the end of the day, I'm quite philosophical about these things. If you don't want to play for the football club and you feel like you want to play somewhere else, then at the end of the day, move on. Because it's no good having a player who feels that he wants to play somewhere else. You've got to be. I suppose what I'm saying is you've got to be 100%.
Yeah.
On the club, and I'm just to be honest, I'm slightly disappointed in Trent, just the way he's allowed the situation to go on to the point where he has. But then that's a separate thing. Coming back to Van Dijk, yeah. I mean, if you'd have said to me, probably if you could just keep two out of the three,
yes.
I'm being honest, yeah.
You probably would have taken it. Chris, thank you. Many good points in there. Jay, you've been waiting patiently. What do you want to say, mate? Good morning.
Hi, you all right? How's it going? You good?
Good, thank you, mate. What do you think about this news about Van Dijk? We kind of expected it. He stays until 2027.
Yeah, I think it's great news. I mean, look, at the end of the day, we're short on defenders at the moment. When Van Dijk eventually leaves in 27, 28, it's going to be a case of he's paving the way for the next defender to come in. So I think it's just fantastic news, really.
Good stuff. Jake, thank you for that. It's hard for Liverpool fans to feel anything other than good about the news that's breaking.
Liverpool got to transition like all clubs have. They've got to transition from this current squad to a new squad. They've got to build underneath it. Now, Trent Alexander-Arnold is a loss because economically they'd like to have protected their assets, and obviously he's come through the system and they'd like to keep a good player. But I think keeping players in the dressing room like Virgil van Dijk and Salah operating at a high level, still scoring a lot of goals, and Virgil van Dijk for the leadership and competency on the field is as important as keeping someone like Trent Alexander-Arnold because he's younger and came through their ranks. And the reason being is you've got to replace, you're always replacing. But if you replace into a culture that enables the next generation of players that come through to get what it is to play for Liverpool, that the next generation that come through, the next signings that Slot will make to refresh, re-energise and reinvigorate will come into an environment where you've got leaders like Virgil van Dijk.
Sure thing.
And that's important for the next opportunity.
I watched last night from distance, Simon. When I was down at Brighton, we were keeping our eye on the scoreline from Newcastle. 4-0 at half-time against your beloved Palace. 5-0 in the end.
You're in good form.
I mean, 4 points adrift of Arsenal. It's becoming Premier League runners-up within their reach. Would that be an important symbolic achievement, do you think, for Newcastle?
Well, yeah. I mean, if you can look at a season of winning a League Cup and all the hullabaloo that went with that, and then compound the achievement by finishing second in the Premier League, qualifying for the Champions League, I think that's a great season. I think they're in great nick, great momentum. They're a good side. Most people enjoy watching them. Their fans are utterly on board. And, you know, the management structure, the manager isn't there right now because he's recovering from pneumonia. But the fact is he's got his lieutenants are keeping the players focused. The players are focused. They're very focused. And Palace walked into a storm last night.
Yeah.
You know, didn't help themselves. You know, you miss penalties in the game where you can get back in it. You give them an extra yard in their step. But they're a good side, right? This Palace conceded, you know, 2 games, conceding 2 games on a row, conceding 5 goals.
Yeah,
Glasner won't be pleased with that.
It won't be. But I think,
well.
Simon, regards Newcastle, we better get used to the sight of Newcastle in the Premier League's higher echelons of the top 2 and 3, because I think they're there to stay.
Maybe. I mean, you've still got to accept that there's an established order that's got bigger turnovers, just as much money as they've got, and also have legacy and heritage that enables them to get better players available to them all the time because of their particular brand of reputation.
But that established order argument's gone.
No, it's not.
Tottenham and Manchester United are in the bottom half.
I'm not including Tottenham in this conversation, but I'm looking at the top 4. You're talking about making a case for seeing Newcastle in the top 2 or 3 as a regular staple diet. I'm suggesting that the powerhouses of Chelsea, because money will rise to the surface in the end, and they'll get that right in the end, Chelsea. Whether it's next season or the season after, they'll get it right. Chelsea, Liverpool, Arsenal, Manchester City. Those 4 sides that have just as much money as Newcastle are able to spend. Newcastle will have access to more money because of their ownership, but as they're able to spend, if the governance changes, then maybe the dynamics will change. But let's just look at these sides and say that Man United will not stay in this funk.
Yeah, but hang on, Simon. It's not all about money. If you're coached right, if you get your recruitment right,
it gets you to a certain level.
Look at Newcastle's recruitment.
It gets you to a certain level, and look what's going to happen.
Bruno Guimaraes.
And look,
my God, did I mention Alexander Isak?
And look what will happen to them. As much as I don't want it to happen, as much as I don't like it, and I don't wish it upon them, there's no thing in this which is based upon any sort of agenda. When a big legacy club comes along and writes out a check that's big enough, and the player decides to do his little bit, which is that Isak gets.
I'm not so sure.
Wait and see.
I'm not so sure.
I hope. I'm very happy. I'm very happy to be wrong.
I know what you're saying.
And I think that Newcastle will enjoy potentially the benefits of 2 things. I don't think there's enough enough money in the football circuit right now because of PSR to enable Isak to be bought for 150, 160 million quid, which is what Newcastle may want. And I also think, given the momentum of Newcastle, they're going to get another year out of him. But when it comes knocking and a legacy club comes along, Newcastle will fall foul to it in the same way that all clubs that are aspiring to get to a point do.
On Manchester United, they go in against Olympique Lyon, 2-2 from the first leg. So Amorim and United, how much of a feather in his cap would this be if United crack on in this tournament? But of course, he has now confirmed, Amorim, that Andre Onana will return to the Manchester United starting lineup tonight. He will play in goal and he will start the match against Lyon. But that wasn't all. He was asked, Amorim, if Onana is one of those players that he's got in mind for the long term.
We need to improve every position on the field. Goalkeeper is the same. We can work with Andre. If the team performs, if our team scores more goal and is more danger on the forwards and the strikers, we will defend better. Onana will defend better. Andre Onana already proved that he is a top player in Inter. So he has a pass. Altai, the same thing in Fenerbahce. Sometimes you have some seasons that we are underperforming. If we are going if any player is underperforming, you have to change everything. That is not the process that we need now.
I respect that, but he consistently has made mistakes for Manchester United.
Yeah, but again...
So it's not just one season. So
again,
you're a coach. You're saying there's a possibility maybe you might get a new keeper in the summer?
No, what I'm saying, we are going to make that evaluation for any position in the squad. And if we are talking about mistakes, you can see my record. My record is the worst one in our team. So I'm also underperforming, and I think I'm the right guy to coach the team. So I think the same for Andre.
Good answer.
What do you think of the way he did that, the way he shaped that answer? And he turned it on himself.
It's a very difficult answer to give because Andre Onana's in the firing line for the mistakes that he makes. And so the question is very loaded, which is basically, there's a coach that's turned around and said the team is underperforming. There's a coach that says it's the worst team that United have produced. If he gives an answer which says, no, that Andre Onana is good and everyone's good, they're going to say, how can you say it's the worst team? If he gives an answer that says, no, they're going to be replaced, then there's going to be a whole raft of problems he's got to manage in the meantime. So he's in a difficult situation. So I think he answered it the right way. I think what he did was qualified the answer about Onana, saying, well, if we defend better in front of him, he might make less mistakes. That was his first part of the answer. Then the reporter didn't want to hear that, so he went on to turn around and say, but he's made mistakes. And I think it was clever to turn around and say, so have I. I think I'm the right person. So by definition, if I can turn it around, then I suspect the goalkeeper can turn it around. If he continues to make mistakes, then by the nature of the beast, he probably, like anyone else in any other walk of life, won't continue to have his employment at his football club. But he doesn't spell it out with blunt as that, and why should he have to?
In a strange way, some of these Manchester United players, Simon, inadvertently, could well be signing their own Old Trafford death warrants if United go on and win the Europa League, because that qualifies them for the Champions League. And that will bring about change immediately.
Maybe. It might bring out a demarcation point that he can say to the players, if you can achieve at this level in individual games, and you can achieve this level ad infinitum. So these are the standards we've set ourselves. Those that make the cut can continue to be here. Those that won't, don't. I think there's an element of it'll help if they win something. The players might get a perception that it might help United in terms of being able to get some of these players out. The individual players don't think anything beyond the end of their nose. So they'll think about the reality of outcomes for themselves. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not criticising their intellect by saying that. No. That's just the nature of the beast.
But what happens if United go out? Amorim's stuck with what he's got.
Well, we'll see. I mean, obviously, given the fact that they're pleading poverty, and given the fact that they can just about rub two halfpennies together and haven't got any money to get through the season.
Exactly.
Well, it's nonsense. They're all cobblers. It's a silly argument. Manchester United have got the money.
But Jim wants the Champions League money, obviously.
Well, if he can't have it, he can't have it. What's he going to do next then? They'd have to put some money in. I mean, we had to listen to this silliness, and people went, did you hear what he said about having no money? But they spent £150 million in August. So they didn't have any money. They had money in August, but they were going to run out in October. in November. It's just a silly narrative. And they're going to build a £2 billion stadium. So either they've got money or they haven't got money.
Well, the narrative around Tottenham, of course, is they're up against Eintracht Frankfurt 1-1 after the first leg. I was there last week. It's kind of similar, really. There's a similar kind of conversation going on about Barry Ferguson and Rangers. Rangers up against Athletic Club, of course, from Bilbao. 0-0 there. So what happens to Ferguson if Rangers go on and say, for talking sake, win this thing? Does he get the job at Rangers full time? And at Tottenham, what happens if Ange wins it? What happens, though, if Tottenham go out tonight? Might that spell the beginning of the end for Ange, as many think? So Postecoglou, going into this, was saying this.
I don't define my career or me as a person by what people think about me. I never have, never will. If you don't think I'm a good coach today, you won't think I'm a good coach tomorrow, even if we win, mate. One game ain't going to make a difference to that. You either think I'm capable of doing a job now, or you don't. That's where I sit with these things. And if people think that us winning tomorrow all of a sudden makes me a better manager than what I am today, or us losing tomorrow sometime makes me a worse manager, I guess that's their burden, not mine. I couldn't care less, mate. Really couldn't care less. There's no burden on me. There's no anxiety on me. Like I said, what I'm sitting here doing is thinking that, we've got a great opportunity tomorrow night to get to the Final Four of a major tournament. Mate, I'm not going to let that slip by without fighting tooth and nail for it, irrespective of what may come the day after.
See, what are we talking about here, Simon? If Tottenham go out tonight, many people think that's it, that's the end of Ange. If Tottenham go on and win it, because of the ups and downs and highs and lows and some of the things Ange has said in the course of the season, that might still be the end of Ange.
It may well be. It creates a debate, though. It creates a pause for thought. I think if they go out against Frankfurt and they'll finish the season in a certain way, they won't get above mid-table. They're not really able to. And I think that will be the end of Ange at Tottenham, which I'm disappointed by. He says things that I think are silly. I think there's lots about him that I admire. But he is defined by what people think of him, especially the people that think about giving him a job. They'll define what they think of him, and his career will be defined by that. So when he says, I don't care what I'm not defined by what people think of me, you are, because it's the people that give you jobs and what they think of you that makes the outcome of your career. And when I do think that it was difficult for him to answer a question. They asked him a question about, does this game define your season? And he went on to say that it doesn't. I'm not going to do that, because he can't. Because if he says it does, then ultimately the headlines are going to be, Ange knows his job's on the hook, and ultimately this is his saving output. And if he doesn't say that and says, no, it's not, people are going to say it's ridiculous. So whatever argument he wants to give nothing.
But if he wins Europa League, Simon, surely it's impossible for Daniel not to back him.
I think it will give people pause to thought. I think if he goes out tonight, I think the die is cast. I think there's a lot of people that are looking at Ange Postecoglou, including balanced and unbalanced Tottenham fans, in the same way now, which is they don't like the way he's setting his team up. I mean, we listened to Danny Murphy sitting there going, I don't think the fella knows how to set a team up. His way of playing football is get at them fast and see where the game goes. Yeah. No game management, no structure of a side, no ability to react to adversity. And that is what fans are now expecting from a coach. And Ange is coming up short. And he can be as robust, he can be as likeable, he can be as everyman as he wants to be in his press conferences. But what he says at times is either his Achilles heel, but his biggest Achilles heel is his team are sitting where they are in the league.
Of course.
He can't explain that away. There's no matter how much you cut and slice and dice this, Tottenham Hotspur sitting 2 places out of the relegation zone is pretty poor.
Yeah.